Imagine coming home after a long day at work, ready to unwind in the comfort of your own apartment. That's exactly what Alex Thompson was doing on a particularly rainy Tuesday evening in April. His apartment wasn't anything special, just a modest one-bedroom on the third floor of the Oakwood Apartments, a red brick building nestled between a small park and a family-owned cafe in the heart of the city. The building itself had character, with its slightly creaky hardwood floors and large windows that let in just the right amount of natural light. It was the kind of place where you could hear the faint sounds of your neighbors' lives. Music playing, conversations happening, the occasional laughter filtering through the walls, creating a sense of community despite the urban anonymity. Alex had been living there for just over 2 years now. At 28, he was comfortable with his routine as a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing firm. His apartment reflected his personality, minimalist but warm, with art prints adorning the walls and plants scattered throughout the space, evidence of his attempt to bring some life into his bachelor pad. Dating had been sporadic for Alex over the past year. After a particularly difficult breakup with his ex-boyfriend Marcus, he had taken some time to focus on himself, his career, and rebuilding his sense of who he was outside of a relationship. Let me explain why this setting matters for our story. The apartment complex creates the perfect backdrop for an unexpected romance. Close enough quarters for chance encounters, yet private enough for individuals to maintain their separate lives. It's in these spaces where boundaries can blur in the most unexpected and delightful ways, where a simple mishap can lead to a life-changing connection. It was about 3 weeks ago when Alex first noticed the new tenant moving into apartment 3C, just across the hall from his own 3B. He had been collecting his mail when he spotted him, tall, with broad shoulders and dark hair that curled slightly at the nape of his neck. The man was struggling with a particularly large box, his muscular arms straining against the weight. Without thinking, Alex had offered to help, and that's how he first met Jake Mitchell. Jake was everything Alex wasn't: outgoing, spontaneous, and seemingly unafraid to take up space in the world. He had moved to the city for a job as a physical therapist at the downtown sports medicine clinic. His smile was infectious, revealing a slight dimple in his left cheek that Alex found himself thinking about at random moments throughout his day. During that first encounter, they had exchanged pleasantries, with Jake expressing genuine gratitude for Alex's help. "I owe you one," Jake had said with that disarming smile, and Alex had felt a flutter in his chest that he promptly ignored. Over the following weeks, their interactions had been brief but increasingly friendly. A quick "good morning" in the hallway, a casual conversation about the temperamental heating system in the building, and once, a longer chat when they happened to be doing laundry at the same time. Alex found himself looking forward to these encounters, even going so far as to time his departures in the morning in hopes of running into Jake. It was silly, he knew, this schoolboy crush on his neighbor, but there was something about Jake that made Alex feel alive in a way he hadn't in quite some time. What Alex didn't know was that Jake had been doing the same thing, finding excuses to be in the hallway when he heard Alex's door open, taking slightly longer than necessary to collect his mail in the hopes of a chance meeting. There was a tension building between them, an unspoken attraction that neither had yet found the courage to acknowledge. Then came the night that changed everything, the night of the shower incident. It had been a particularly stormy evening, with rain pounding against the windows and occasional flashes of lightning illuminating the darkening sky. Alex had just settled onto his couch with a bowl of pasta and was scrolling through streaming options when he heard a commotion from across the hall. There was a loud bang, followed by what sounded like a curse, and then the unmistakable sound of rushing water. Alex paused his browsing, listening intently. The noise continued, growing louder, and then suddenly there was frantic knocking at his door. Before he could even get up to answer it, the door burst open, and there stood Jake, hair wild, t-shirt soaked through, and a look of pure panic on his face. "My shower pipe just burst, and water is going everywhere," Jake exclaimed, his words tumbling out in a rush. "I shut off the water main, but my bathroom is flooded, and I was in the middle of showering, and I have a date in an hour," and he stopped, seeming to realize for the first time that he had just barged into Alex's apartment without waiting for an invitation. "I'm so sorry for barging in like this, but I'm desperate. Can I use your shower? Please." Alex stood there, pasta bowl still in hand, momentarily stunned by the sudden intrusion and the sight of Jake standing in his doorway, t-shirt clinging to his chest, looking simultaneously distressed and, well, incredibly attractive. It took him a moment to process the request, and before he could formulate a proper response, Jake had already taken his hesitation as permission. "Thank you, you're a lifesaver," Jake said, already moving past Alex toward the bathroom. "I promise I'll be quick, and I'll clean up after myself, and I'll owe you big time." And just like that, before Alex could even say a word, Jake had disappeared into his bathroom, leaving a trail of water droplets on the hardwood floor. A moment later, Alex heard the shower turn on, and the reality of the situation hit him. His incredibly attractive neighbor was naked in his shower. This was not how he had imagined his quiet Tuesday evening would unfold. Alex stood frozen in his living room, unsure of what to do next. Should he continue eating his now-cooling pasta? Should he wait outside the bathroom with a towel? Should he leave his own apartment to give Jake privacy? The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on him, and a nervous laugh escaped his lips as he set down his bowl and ran a hand through his hair. Inside the bathroom, Jake was having his own moment of realization. He had just barged into his cute neighbor's apartment and commandeered his shower without so much as a proper invitation. What had he been thinking? The emergency of the situation had overridden his usual social graces, and now here he was, using Alex's shampoo and standing in his private space. The intimacy of it wasn't lost on him. Using someone's shower was surprisingly personal, surrounded by their products, their towels, the scents they chose for themselves. Meanwhile, Alex had decided the polite thing to do was to find a clean towel for his unexpected guest. He approached the bathroom door, hand raised to knock, when he heard Jake singing softly, some pop song that had been on the radio recently. The sound made Alex smile despite himself. There was something endearingly unguarded about it. He knocked gently. "Hey, I'm leaving a clean towel out here for you," he called through the door. The singing stopped abruptly. "Oh, thanks," Jake called back, a note of embarrassment in his voice. "Sorry about the impromptu concert." "Don't worry about it," Alex replied, finding himself smiling. "Your vocals aren't bad. Better than the last tenant in 3C. He used to practice opera at 6 a.m. Jake's laugh echoed from behind the door, and something warm unfurled in Alex's chest at the sound. "Well, at least I'm an upgrade in that department," Jake called back. After placing the towel on the small table next to the bathroom door, Alex retreated to the kitchen, deciding to make a fresh cup of coffee for himself and his unexpected guest. It would give him something to do with his hands and his racing thoughts. A few minutes later, the water shut off, and after some rustling sounds, the bathroom door opened. Jake emerged with the towel wrapped around his waist, his hair damp and curling slightly, water droplets still clinging to his shoulders. Alex tried not to stare, but it was difficult not to notice the defined muscles of Jake's chest and arms, or the trail of dark hair that disappeared beneath the towel. "I cannot thank you enough," Jake said, looking genuinely grateful. "You have no idea what a lifesaver you are right now." Alex cleared his throat, focusing on pouring the coffee rather than on Jake's state of undress. "No problem. Neighborly duty and all that. Coffee. That would be amazing, actually," Jake said, accepting the mug Alex offered him. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Alex felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. "I should probably go put some clothes on, though. I left a bag of dry stuff by your door when I came in." "Right, of course," Alex nodded, trying to keep his voice casual. "The clothes. That would be appropriate." Jake grinned, a mischievous glint in his eye that suggested he had noticed Alex's discomfort and maybe even enjoyed it a little. "Unless you prefer this look," he teased, gesturing to the towel. Alex felt heat rise to his cheeks. Jake laughed, sparing Alex from having to formulate a response. "I'm just messing with you. Be right back." As Jake retrieved his bag and disappeared back into the bathroom to change, Alex took a deep breath, trying to collect himself. This was not how he had imagined getting to know his neighbor better, but he couldn't deny that the unexpected turn of events had certainly broken the ice between them. When Jake emerged again, fully dressed in jeans and a blue button-up shirt that brought out the color of his eyes, Alex had managed to regain some of his composure. They sat at Alex's small kitchen table, coffee mugs in hand, an unexpected moment of intimacy after the chaos of the past half hour. "So," Alex said, breaking the silence, "you mentioned a date?" Jake's expression changed slightly, a flicker of something, disappointment, crossing his features before he nodded. Yeah, with a client's brother who's been asking me out for weeks. I finally said yes just to be polite, but honestly. He looked up, meeting Alex's eyes directly. I'm not really looking forward to it. No, Alex asked, trying not to sound too interested. Jake shook his head. No, there's actually someone else I've been interested in lately. His gaze was steady, meaningful, and Alex felt his heart rate pick up. Oh, was all Alex could manage, the single syllable laden with unasked questions. Jake took a sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving Alex's. Yeah, but I wasn't sure if he was interested back. He's kind of hard to read sometimes. The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken possibilities. Alex found himself at a crossroads. He could play it safe, keep things friendly but distant, or he could take a chance. After his breakup with Marcus, he had promised himself he wouldn't rush into anything new, that he would be cautious with his heart. But sitting across from Jake, seeing the hopeful vulnerability in his expression, Alex found his caution wavering. Maybe, Alex said slowly, he's just been waiting for the right moment. Or for you to make the first move. Jake's smile was slow and genuine, lighting up his entire face. Is that so? And what would constitute a right moment, do you think? Alex pretended to consider this, tapping his finger against his mug. Well, barging into his apartment and using his shower without permission probably isn't in the dating etiquette books, but it certainly makes for a memorable first encounter. Jake laughed, the sound warm and rich. Not my smoothest move, I'll admit. But it got me here, sitting across from you, so I can't entirely regret it. And just like that, the pretense was dropped. The attraction that had been simmering beneath their casual interactions was now acknowledged, out in the open between them. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. So, Jake continued, setting down his mug. What would you say if I were to cancel my date tonight and ask if you wanted to order takeout instead? Maybe watch a movie? A proper get-to-know-you evening, without any plumbing emergencies. Alex felt a smile tugging at his lips. I'd say that sounds a lot better than the pasta I was about to eat alone. Is that a yes? Jake asked, a hopeful note in his voice. That's a yes, Alex confirmed, and the brilliant smile he received in return made his heart skip a beat. Jake pulled out his phone, quickly typing out a message. Just canceling that date, he explained. Making up some excuse about my apartment flooding, which isn't even a lie, technically. As Jake put his phone away, their conversation flowed more naturally, the initial awkwardness giving way to genuine connection. They discovered shared interests in hiking and obscure indie films, debated the merits of different coffee shops in the neighborhood, and exchanged stories about their worst first date experiences. Jake was easy to talk to, his enthusiasm contagious, and Alex found himself laughing more than he had in months. They ordered Chinese food from the place around the corner, and as they waited for it to arrive, Jake insisted on looking at the damage to his own apartment. Alex accompanied him across the hall, and they surveyed the flooded bathroom together, with Jake groaning at the mess. The super said he'd send someone tomorrow morning, Jake explained, carefully stepping around the puddles. But it looks like I'm without a functioning bathroom for at least the night. There was a pause, loaded with implication, before Alex heard himself say, You're welcome to use mine. For as long as you need to. The look Jake gave him was worth any inconvenience such an arrangement might cause. You sure about that? I don't want to impose more than I already have. I'm sure, Alex said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. They returned to Alex's apartment just as the food delivery arrived, and spent the evening on his couch, containers of lo mein and kung pao chicken spread out on the coffee table, a movie playing on the TV that neither of them was paying much attention to. Their conversation meandered from topic to topic, revealing layers of each other with each passing hour. As the night grew later, their positions on the couch shifted, the space between them gradually decreasing until their shoulders were touching, a casual intimacy that felt both new and somehow familiar. When Jake's hand found Alex's, fingers intertwining with a gentle squeeze, it felt like the most natural progression in the world. The movie ended, the credits rolling unnoticed as they talked, neither making a move to check the time or suggest the evening should end. It was only when Alex failed to suppress a yawn that reality intruded. I should probably let you get some sleep, Jake said reluctantly, though he made no move to disentangle his hand from Alex's. Probably, Alex agreed, equally reluctant. Some of us have work in the morning. Right. Jake nodded, finally releasing Alex's hand and standing up. Thank you again. For the shower, the company, everything. Alex stood as well, suddenly aware of how close they were standing, of the slight height difference between them that meant he had to look up slightly to meet Jake's eyes. It was my pleasure. Really. There was a moment of hesitation, a breath where possibility hung between them, and then Jake leaned down, his intention clear. He paused, just a fraction of an inch away, giving Alex the chance to pull back if he wanted to. Instead, Alex closed the distance, their lips meeting in a kiss that was gentle at first, a question being asked and answered. When they parted, Jake's smile was soft, intimate in a way that made Alex's heart flutter. "Good night, Alex," he said quietly. "Good night, Jake," Alex replied, walking him to the door. "I'll see you tomorrow?" Jake nodded, lingering in the doorway. "Definitely. I'll need to use your shower again, after all." With one last smile, he was gone, the door closing behind him. Alex leaned against it, a giddy smile spreading across his face despite his attempts to contain it. What had started as an ordinary Tuesday had transformed into something entirely unexpected, the beginning of something that felt a lot like promise. The following days established a new routine. Jake would come over in the mornings to use Alex's shower before work, and again in the evenings. What could have been awkward instead became a cherished part of Alex's day. Sharing coffee in the morning, Jake's hair still damp, or cooking dinner together in the evening before Jake would reluctantly return to his own apartment to sleep. By the third day, the plumber had come and gone, informing Jake that the parts needed for the repair would take at least another week to arrive. Jake had looked so genuinely disappointed at this news that Alex couldn't help but laugh. "You know," Alex had said, "for someone whose bathroom is out of commission, you don't seem very upset about the delay." Jake had grinned, unabashed. "Can you blame me? The circumstances have been pretty favorable, from my perspective." The easy flirtation between them continued to build, along with deeper conversations that revealed their values, dreams, and fears. Alex learned about Jake's close relationship with his sister, who was raising 2 kids on her own after a divorce. Jake discovered Alex's passion for photography, a hobby he'd neglected lately but used to love. They shared stories of coming out, Jake's relatively smooth experience with accepting parents, and Alex's more complicated journey with his traditional family, who had eventually come around. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. On the 5th day of their new arrangement, a misunderstanding threatened to derail their budding relationship. Jake had arrived at Alex's door in the evening, only to find it locked, with no answer to his knocking. Confused and a little hurt, he had returned to his own apartment, using a bucket of water heated on the stove for a makeshift wash-up. What Jake didn't know was that Alex had been called into an emergency meeting with a client and had lost track of time, his phone battery dying before he could send a message. When he finally returned home and realized what had happened, he immediately went to Jake's apartment, apology ready. But Jake's response was disproportionate to the situation. His hurt seemed deeper than a simple miscommunication warranted. It wasn't until they were sitting in Jake's living room, the tension thick between them, that the real issue emerged. "It just brought back some stuff," Jake admitted, staring down at his hands. "My ex had a habit of shutting me out when things got difficult. He'd just disappear. No communication, no explanation. I'd be left wondering what I'd done wrong." Alex moved closer on the couch, taking one of Jake's hands in his. "I'm sorry. I should have made sure you knew where I was. But Jake, it wasn't about shutting you out. It was genuinely just a work emergency and a dead phone." Jake nodded, squeezing Alex's hand. "I know that rationally. It's just old wounds, you know." "I do know," Alex said softly, thinking of his own relationship baggage. "My ex, Marcus, he was always looking for the next best thing. Made me feel like I was never quite enough, like I was constantly auditioning for the role of boyfriend. It's made me cautious." The honesty between them cleared the air, and as they continued to talk, sharing more about their past relationships and the scars they carried, a deeper understanding formed. They were both works in progress, both carrying histories that shaped their reactions and fears. But there was also a mutual willingness to try, to be patient with each other's rough edges. That night, Jake stayed over at Alex's for the first time. Nothing happened beyond holding each other, but there was something profoundly intimate about falling asleep together, about waking up to Jake's sleepy smile and bed-mussed hair. The following week brought new developments. Jake's shower was finally fixed, eliminating his practical excuse for spending so much time at Alex's apartment. There was a moment of uncertainty, a question of what would happen now that their initial reason for spending time together was gone. "So," Jake said, standing in Alex's kitchen after the plumber had left, "my shower's working again." "I heard," Alex replied, trying to gauge Jake's feelings about this development. "I guess you won't need to use mine anymore." Jake stepped closer, his hands finding Alex's waist. "That's true, but maybe I've gotten used to other things. Your coffee in the morning, your company in the evening." He paused, a vulnerability in his eyes that made Alex's heart ache in the best way. "You." And just like that, they crossed another threshold. The pretense was gone. They weren't just neighbors helping each other out, or friends enjoying each other's company. They were two people building something together, something with potential and depth. The physical aspect of their relationship evolved naturally from there. Their first time together was a blend of eagerness and tenderness, discovering each other's bodies with the same curiosity and care with which they'd been discovering each other's minds and hearts. Afterward, lying tangled together in Alex's bed, there was a sense of rightness that neither had expected to find so soon, or perhaps ever again. As the weeks passed, they settled into a relationship that balanced independence with togetherness. Jake still maintained his own apartment, but spent most nights at Alex's. They met each other's friends, navigated their first minor disagreements, and found ways to make space for each other's needs and habits. It wasn't always easy. Alex's tendency toward introversion sometimes clashed with Jake's more extroverted nature. Jake's spontaneity occasionally frustrated Alex's preference for planning. But underlying these differences was a fundamental respect and affection that made compromise feel worthwhile rather than sacrificial. 3 months after the shower incident, they were having dinner at their now-favorite restaurant when Jake brought up a topic they'd been dancing around. "My lease is up next month," he said, twirling pasta around his fork. "I've been thinking about what to do." Alex felt a flutter of anxiety. Was Jake considering moving? Had he grown tired of their arrangement? "Oh," he managed, trying to keep his voice neutral. Jake looked up, meeting Alex's eyes with a directness that had become familiar. "It seems silly to keep paying rent on a place I barely use anymore. But I also know it's probably too soon to officially move in together." Relief washed over Alex, followed by a surge of affection for this man who understood his need for caution, who respected his boundaries even while making his own desires clear. "What if," Alex suggested, "we keep things as they are for now, but maybe talk about looking for a bigger place together when my lease is up in 6 months? Something that would be ours from the start, rather than you moving into my space or vice versa." The smile that spread across Jake's face was answer enough, but he reached across the table to take Alex's hand anyway. "I'd like that. A lot." It wasn't a grand declaration of eternal love, but it was a promise of a shared future, a commitment to continue building what they'd started that rainy night when a broken shower had led to an unexpected connection. 6 months later, they moved into a new apartment together, a corner unit on the 4th floor of a building closer to the park, with large windows and a bathroom with dual shower heads that had made them both laugh when they first saw it during the viewing. On their first morning in the new place, Jake stepped into the bathroom while Alex was showering, sliding open the glass door with a mischievous grin. "Excuse me," he said, echoing their first encounter, "but my shower's broken. Mind if I join you?" Alex laughed, pulling him under the spray. Funny how history repeats itself. As the water cascaded over them both, Alex reflected on how a simple plumbing malfunction had changed the course of his life, bringing him this man who challenged him, supported him, and loved him with an openness that still sometimes took his breath away. Sometimes the most extraordinary beginnings come from the most ordinary disruptions. A broken shower, an unexpected intrusion, a moment of vulnerability that opens the door to possibility. For Alex and Jake, it was just the first chapter of a story that continued to unfold, one day at a time, built on the foundation of that rainy Tuesday, when Jake stepped into Alex's shower before he could even answer the door. Total _char_count, 18,893.